Well, good morning again, YouTubers. Today what I want to talk about is some of the ways that this Russian seminar clinic, I call them, get posted so other people can watch them. Now it's important that they get translated into Russian, which will take some time, and so there'll be a DVD or something like this. But I have quite a few people across the United States, and I'm sure probably other places in the world, they're actually looking for some kind of training. You know, they'd love to go into a course and do a communication course or something like this, but basically any training is better than no training. And it just so happens that this training is probably the best for any kind of new person, because particularly this false data and figuring out that you got some bad information about something and your life is not running real right because of it, and getting it fixed. And then by specifically aiming these things at these moral precepts, what's right and what's wrong, things that he didn't make sense to him, didn't add up, couldn't think with. Somebody's telling me something different. Same stuff, same false data. But this is on the subject of morals and morality. A moral person is pretty much a person that does good things, and morality is the quality of generally just being a good person and doing the right thing and so forth. A moral, right decision, It's not like, it doesn't. There's a couple definitions, of course. A morality, one is basically somebody's opinion about something. This is right, this is wrong. But we're not really looking at the opinion definition. We're looking at the general whole purpose. If you look at all the definitions, mostly moral is a good thing. He's a moral man, he does good things. He has high standards of morality. You see, he won't lie no matter what. He's got pretty high standards about that. So in general, what we're looking for is just decisions about what's moral, about anything. What is it good or bad to cut the grass? You see, is it right or wrong to write nasty letters to people? Is it good to help children? Is it bad to cut down the forests? All these things are moral choices, But it has to do with being right and being moral and being good and true and just and moving on the path of optimum survival, doing most everything in life right. And if you're doing everything in life right, and you don't have a lot of false data and stuff about it, at least you can learn about it, and it's getting better and better and better, fine. Your life is wonderful. You can have any kind of life you want. But if you're operating off of false data, stuff like this, you're not going to be doing so good. So anyway, this is very good for new people. You don't have to learn a lot of technology about this or that or the other thing. You have to have some kind of skills, some kind of auditing skills. You have to be able to ask a guy a question, get an answer, and acknowledge him. You have to be able to direct his attention. You have to get him to go look at something, and you got to get him to tell you about it. You have to have some basic communication skills. Fortunately, for a new person, they don't know anything really wrong. Nobody ever told them anything about communication. They have not a whole lot of data there at all about communication. So when you give them the true data, this is what communication is. Here's a cause and a distance and an effect, and there's a particle goes across and it has some meaning. It's a symbol and means something. And the other guy gets it and he goes, yeah, I got that. You said pear and I got a picture of pear, so we're in agreement. Communication. Well, a lot of things can go wrong with that communication line, but so it takes a little bit of training for anybody to sit down and follow the communication formula. Ask the guy a question, get an answer, say thank you, you know, and then he asks you something in two-way communication, and you answer his question. He says, how come my head hurts? And you just can't say, I'll repeat the question. You gotta say, I don't know what's happening there, you know. Oh, my head start hurting. Oh, okay. Well, is it gonna hurt too much to go ahead and tell me what Uncle Billy looked like? Well, no, Uncle Billy was wearing red. See, he's right back into what he was in the first place. He could have ran into anything. He ran into bouncers. He could have uncovered something more false data that he went off chasing. There's no telling what the guy will do, but you just keep steering him on this one idea, this one concept that he had that wasn't making sense, you see. All women are fat, you know, or fat people are cheerful, or whatever the datum was that the guy's having trouble with. So there's a lot of people that want training, and that's why I'm going to Russia. There's a lot of people that want training, you know, and there's a lot of people here in the United States that need and deserve training, and I mean the other places around the world. So what I'm going to try to do is put this Russian series, at least some of it, on Skype. So you'll get to, if you're just English, you're going to have to suffer through some Russian translations, but you'll get the gist of everything, and you'll see what happens and exactly how you go into a group of people and start with a stick and get a bunch of false data. They all think it's right. You know, at the beginning, everybody's going to think, yeah, everything they tell me is God's own truth. And, you know, the next day, they're all going, man, that was the stupidest thing I ever thought. So the Skype is, you know, also if somebody's on Skype and they're watching the class or the video or something, we'll say somebody in Canada or someplace, and they have a question, you see, you know, because I'm going to take some questions from the audience and something, and so the people on the internet that are watching and they want to ask a question, I'll answer any question or use their example or whatever it will, because it's going to be the same for everybody. There are no special cases, you know. The mind works the way the mind works, and you do these things, it gets false data, and you do these things and the false data disappears, and oh my God, you know, you're a miracle. You know, you have to make a statue of you. And that's just simply because the data, the basic data of the mind and finding stuff like this is not a known part of the general society. See? They are operating on false data that they really understand communication, that they really know how the mind works. They got a lot of false data. So what are you going to listen to them for? They don't know anything about the mind, really. I mean, they got some ideas and this and that, but they tell you about pictures and engrams and charge and 52 perceptions or anything about it? Hell no, they don't. They don't know. They can tell you what part of the brain lights up and turns green and what part flashes over here whenever you do this or that, but they don't miss the fact that you're dealing with a Thetan. You're merely dealing with a spiritual being. You're not fooling around poking pins in the body and expecting any result out of the other end. In order to solve the guy's problems, really, ultimately, I guess everything, is to address the source of how come he's making it in the first place. He's the one that creates his life. You're the one in charge of your whole life. Nobody made you do anything. But anyway, that's the point is that this whole lecture series, and it's going to be about false data stripping and a happiness rundown, basic auditing skills. You know, we're going to be dealing with like basic students, and there will be some advanced auditors and students and stuff, but this is all about basics. It's always all about just the basic things. I'm not going to tell anybody how to be any better or anything. All I can tell them is how to do the core, only that part that works right. That's the hardest thing, just to teach people how simple something is. You know, you got these 4 or 5 questions. Where was he? What was he doing? Where were you? What were you doing? What did he look like? simple questions. First thing you know, you listen to the PC and he's telling you about Grandma, and she went over there to, milk the sheep, and Uncle Billy Bob next door down, he was in love with Grandma, but Daddy caught, he goes on and on and on and on and on and on about all of this data that he's got, and incidents and pictures, and he's confused. See, he's going to go everywhere looking for some kind of answer. He's got false data, then there's a confusion there. So it's going to be your job as an auditor, as a counselor, to help this guy find this picture. And then you just ask these stupid questions. Don't alter them, don't change them, don't add more, don't take any out. And the guy's not super happy and found the incident, then you just ask him if there's an earlier similar and do the same thing. Where were you, where was it, what was its color, temperature, its weight, what was, tell me about it. It's a blue, it's a red, it's a green, it was just deep, whatever. Just get the guy. It's about it, very simple, straight wire. You're not doing any big, heavy mental things. You just get a straight wire, and you want to look for this release when the guy spots the data. You'll spot, oh, well, you don't hammer with saws. And he'll have good indicators, and you'll get a floating needle, and that's what you're trying to do. You're just trying to key the guy out with straight wire, elementary straight wire techniques. Now, if you bypass it too much, you're going to drop through into underlying Ingrams and secondaries and heavy charge. Because if the guy's got false data on a subject, he's more than likely got a lot of Ingrams in that subject too. He was trying to chop a straight line and he keeps hitting his thumb, and whatever, he's had his 15th divorce. It's an Ingram. And so you don't want to go that deep. You're not trying to dig up the whole guy's case. You're just trying to use straight wire to kind of spring him out of this false data on this subject that you're trying to teach him. You're trying to teach him how to saw, and you don't really care that he got his leg sawed off, and that's why he hops around crooked. You don't feel sorry for him, but the fact is, the only thing you really care about is that he's sawing straight. You don't care about his leg. He cares about his leg, but you don't. You just want a one-legged guy to saw straight. You don't care how he lost his leg. And if you overrun this too much, you'll get into these underlying Ingrams. Well, they can be run out, of course, with a great many techniques. But the point is that you don't want to overrun the guy, because that's what you're going to do, is get him into something earlier, unconscious, some sort of thing. And now you're going to have a little bit of auditing technique and experience and stuff to know how to handle these various things. Depends on what got keyed in and how, and what he thinks about it, and how great's his reality, and if he's got a low reality, well, you can just do a little more straight wire, which way was north and east and west, and you eventually pop him right out of that incident that he got himself into. But the point is, you don't want to overrun this. You're not trying to handle the guy's whole case. You're trying to find some point there that he can straight wire, recall pretty easily. He got some false data and who it was and what they looked like, and it separates him a little bit from it, you see. Then the next question, he looks at somebody else, it separates from him a little bit, and somebody else, and it separates. Pretty soon he's going to go, whoa, and then he sees the false data. No wonder I blah, blah, blah. And usually always this happens. When you start running this thing down, and every time I can think of anyway, it might have been one I missed or something, you start running this thing down and you find out what was this earliest data. He's all talking about, when he was 5 years old, and Uncle Billy was painting the barn or something. You see, blah, 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 blah. And then he'll say something like, oh my God, I still do that today. That's happened yesterday. In fact, I do it all the time. See, he sprung out of the past. He was telling you all about past, Uncle Billy, and then all of a sudden he started telling you, well, no wonder that my wife gets mad because I'm constantly doing this thing or the other thing because what Uncle Billy said. Hell, that don't make no sense. He feels really good about that. That's what you're after. You just want the guy to key out. You're not going to try to dig up his whole bank. He's got plenty there, and this is not the way to do it. You know, you don't use one rundown for something else. Only thing this thing is good for is using straight ARC straight wire or just straight wire techniques, and you're using ARC, you're communicating with the guy and so forth. Some auditing techniques are very simple. Your basics, you know, be there and communicate and answer the question and say thank you and find out what's going on with the guy and keep the communication line going while you're asking for earlier similar or tell me about where Uncle Billy was, or basic auditing stuff. Now, all of these basics and these, you know, 14 main questions and 9 other questions that help you pinpoint it and erase it. And this is basic auditing to two-way communication cycle and the cycle of an auditor, you know, a counselor, what you're doing over there with your client and what you want him to do and find, and him telling you about it, and the thing erasing, you see. That's not very many data, you know, that's only about 4 or 5 things. You know, the idea there is false data, you see, how it's formed, you see, and how to find it, how to erase it, and the techniques that you would need to do for the human communication in order to resolve this. It's 5, 6 things, you know, nothing hard to do at all. But you'll find that when people try to do this, that their own false data gets restimulated along the subject of auditing. See, knowing how to audit, and they're going to have lots of questions about, well, there, you know, TR4, that never did make no sense. This communication routine training on that one, I didn't really understand how come blah blah, or how come this bulletin here says this and Joe says that. He's got a lot of false data right there about auditing and stuff, and so it's very complicated, and they're going to add all kinds of stuff in. But really, new people are really best at this. They don't know all this strange stuff to do. They don't know how to do anything. So you just tell them, do this, and only this. Oh, you get big results every time. You bring an old trained person in, you go, oh, it's a miracle. How did that guy that's only been here 2 days pass all the meter drills in only 2 days? Because he has some flexibility with his finger, and he understands, and he can look at a meter. He doesn't have to know anything about anything else, but he's really good at reading that meter, and he did it in 2 days. So just because it took you 6 months, all that tells me is that you must have had a lot of false data. See, he didn't have any false data. He just got true data straight away, bang, in a couple days he can read a meter. Don't know what it's good for, or what those reads mean, or anything else. He didn't know anything, but he does know how to read a meter and tell you what all them reads is. And old auditor has sometimes more trouble getting. He's got a lot of false data about this. You know, he has to wait for the PC to breathe 2 times and then do this, or you know, reads don't count if the PC is moving his feet. You know, but again, we're not really into. You don't even need a meter for this thing. I mean, of course, you should be run on a meter. But really, you don't need one. And it's really mostly not going to read anyway, because you're looking for stuff that he doesn't even know he has. And whenever you just start two-way communication with a guy, asking him about one of these things that didn't make sense, didn't add up, he's pretty happy to tell you about it. You know, he's don't take a lot of arm twisting. He may not be able to see it really, because you know, he's still blind on that subject. He's got false data there, but he'll tell you something about somebody that he got it from. He'll remember that somehow. Well, of course he has to, because he's applying false data, so he has to know where he got his data. So he'll remember it. So what I want to do is try to put this thing up on Skype for people. Have people ask questions. I don't know what the situation will be with the internet or anything else. It may not be possible to put it up on Skype. I don't see why not. Answer a few questions like at the end of every period, and it might be interesting for some of the Russians to hear what, you know, maybe another American or Canadian or somebody in Spain or I don't know, somebody somewhere, you're watching this, and at least they can understand some English, so it'll pretty much all be conducted in English. I'll try to speak some Russian, you know, of course, but I think this would be good for people that want some training in the United States and really got no place to train. And all training in is really the importation of information across the subject to you, and then what you do with it's what you do with it. But it'll help a little bit to have the mass with seeing other people and seeing their reactions and seeing how it worked and what kind of cognitions the guy had, you know. He had data about blah, and you run it back, and it was Uncle Bill in the farm, and the piece is going to say, oh, wow, no wonder today, blah, yesterday, you know, no wonder my wife, he just make a lot of sense to him all of a sudden. And the weird thing about this thing is that he just all of a sudden, whatever this crazy behavior was, just quits. He doesn't cry about it. He doesn't even hardly know what happened. He just realized, oh, damn, boy, I was making a lot of bad decisions. Well, I make some good ones now, since I know how to do it. And he just forgets about it. Just his life just goes zoom. He takes off, you know. Wow, see you later. Thanks a lot, Tom. And comes back, you know, a week later. Man, you wouldn't believe all the shit that happened to me. Whoa, blah, 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 blah. His whole life just took off like a rocket from one session. Okay, fine. And then you kind of got to work on the PC. He feels so good, and he wants to go out, and he wants to just zoom around in life. And, well, yeah, of course he feels good. But the point is that you got a whole rundown here. You know, you got a couple, you got 25, 30, 50 hours of finding out things just on survival on his 8 dynamics that is bonkers. It's nuts. He does crazy things across all the dynamics. That's why he's in a meat body, why he's worried about dying, and why he's got problems. He's not happy. See, so what this whole rundown is about happiness. First of all, it's about survival, because, you know, that's what makes him happy. That's the purpose of all of life, is just survive, no other reason. And if he's doing anything about anything, he's basing some of his ideas and stuff on just data. He's just basing it on data. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. You never know what the data is going to be. But you want to get this PC or this person or this client or your worker or your friend or your wife or even your dog probably. Dog has probably got false data on some dog level. That's why he can't be trained. See, dog's confused. Ugh. Well, you know dogs got false data. See, you see a confusion. There's false data in there somewhere. Somewhere there's two things that don't add. You see? So, that's going to be the purpose of this. This is a little bit of a just a little shorter video, but this is mostly directed to the students that might want to tune into this Russian seminar. As far as what anything costs, I don't know. That'll kind of be up to you and what you think something might be worth to have something like this. The point is, it's really not important, you know, some kind of cash inflow to me. I never refuse it, of course, but the people that be watching this on Skype, I really have no idea of the business aspects of this. You know, it did cost me cost the Russians quite a bit to get me there for plane ticket, visa, and all this, and you know, they have some expenses to recover, so I don't know if they might want to sell the Skype stuff. As far as I'm concerned, I think it's just too much trouble to even worry about it. If anybody wants to look at it and then send some money, fine. If you don't want to send some money, well, that's okay too. But anyway, it would be good for some of the new people and some people that don't have technical comm lines. I'm just kind of rambling on here, so that's all for now. That's basically what this Russian seminar is going to be about, and this is mostly for students that already have some interest along this line and would like to follow along. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.